Rents continue to fall. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from realestate.com.au, which is discussing the continuing fall in rents and the opportunities that provides for tenants. Now remember, several months ago we were discussing the flood of short-term holiday accommodation onto the market, going from perhaps an Airbnb rental to a long-term rental property. All of a sudden there were properties appearing for long-term leases fully furnished. Now, that's going to have an impact on the rents that people can get and will flow through to the yields people can get from their investment properties. And one would argue that that will have an impact on the price of that property or the valuation of those properties. But people keep telling me, Florian, doesn't matter. Yield doesn't matter on property. That's just to cover your mortgage. It's all about the capital growth. She flies to the moon. 7 years and doubles again and doubles again. So we'll have to see if that old adage continues with, well, the drastic changes that are happening to the property market here in Australia, particularly with, well, it's now going to be a renter's market. I've got several viewers that are looking at getting into the property. Some are frustrated. One viewer down in Sydney, she was writing in the comments how she was disheartened because they'd lost an auction for a dump, a fixer-upper with no parking, went over, I think, $1.4 million. So, and there are other people going, oh, how should I get in the market? And everyone is just experiencing all the FOMO fueled by the media. There's all these government grants. So I can understand interest rates. I mean, come on, let's not even talk about it. That it's going to go up. It's 0.25%. Last time I checked, it was 84% market prediction that it's going to hit zero. So they're giving you money for nothing. But maybe it's not such a bad thing to just wait a little bit, particularly if it's a renter's market. And I'm going to have a shot of coffee while you process that. Because I'd put an argument out there that, and correct me if you think I'm wrong in this one, there's just a little bit, a tiny bit of, a kind of snobbery in Australian culture. We're meant to be this egalitarian, carefree culture. I don't think that exists anymore in some ways. I think if you're a renter, you're looked down upon by the property-owning class. Everyone wants to be a slumlord. So you got the slumlords here, which I would include myself in, all of us. You've got the slumlords who own investment properties. Okay, well, I'm not going to say slumlords. That's a bit mean. Investors, mum and dad investors. Mum plus dad or singletons. Then you've got the property owners, owner-occupiers. Then under that, you have the renters. And above that, you've got the elite. They're the ones who make money off this lot. Don't play the game. And so you have all the people here, at the landlord level who are renting out to and look down on the people they depend to build their wealth. So it's kind of sad in a way. It's kind of sad. I think that plays into the part why so many people want to just get into a house. Why sometimes you throw rationality out the window. And I can understand. I'm the same. I didn't want to rent. Not when I was raising a family. No, you don't want to rent. And, well, we've heard the stories of people getting kicked out of properties because the investors need to sell. So the fact that you don't have that security of a home also plays into it. So I can see and appreciate all these things coming together. But another thing we need to consider is as more and more people rent, this stigma is going to disappear. We're going to grow out of that as a culture. We're not going to be as snobby, I would say, over time. And, well, if there's an opportunity to get good places very cheap, then you don't need to pay the maintenance. You don't need to pay the rates. You don't need to pay the water bills. If a disaster happens and something breaks, like our hot water system was broken, the landlord has that responsibility. The general rule is you need to spend about 5% per year of the purchase cost on maintenance of your property. That may be, well, I'm hoping it's not 5% in Sydney and Melbourne where the property prices are so inflated, but as a general rule of thumb, you've got to put a decent put of money aside to maintain your property. The property we bought, that hasn't happened. And I've probably been quite slack with that as well, but we intend to demolish big portions of our building and lift, so I'm not too worried. But that adds up, guys. That's another cost. And if you're a renter, you don't need to worry about that. You know? Then you can do the strategy of rent vesting. Maybe rent somewhere where you can get it nicer, and then buy some property in another location that may be a bit more affordable that you can rent out. But the problem is then you're taking the risk of when the state intervenes and says, okay, rent moratorium. I keep saying memorandum. Rent moratorium, and just says, nope, you can't kick anyone out. Nope, you can't increase rents. No, you have to give everyone a forgiveness. You're taking on that risk then if you're investing in property like that. And that's something people need to be aware of. I suspect, the well-dressed real estate agents and property spruikers may not have painted a clear picture of the potential negative side to owning an investment. Everything has a risk. Everything has a risk. There's no such thing as a risk-free investment. Even putting your money in a bank has a risk. Even storing your money, at home or in a safe has a risk. We saw what happened when Bullion Bros went under in WA. There was a lot of difficulty in identifying whose bullion belonged to who. And sure, they worked it out at the end, but it was a lot of stress for the people. So let's have a look at this, everyone. To consider as an option, maybe renting is a smarter idea in the short to medium term. I suspect, we'll see some people getting kicked out and pushed out, and there are some shortages in some areas. We're seeing it up in Sunny Coast, but in others, in the cities, now may be the time. So, while rent prices in some capital cities have held strong during the pandemic crisis, others have dipped due to dwindling demand, giving suave tenants the opportunity to nab a dream rental at a fraction of the cost. I'll be interested to see what Emily considers a fraction, but we'll have to see. I guess, 9/10 is a fraction too. Oh, we haven't got to fractions yet at teaching me. No, I'm not looking forward to it. Decimal for life. A new realestate.com.au analysis of advertised rent prices in September 2020 compared with April 2020 has revealed the Australian regions that experienced the biggest rent price drops post-pandemic, with Melbourne and Sydney the hardest hit. Now, that cannot surprise anyone at all watching this. The analysis also included the regions where rent prices have increased the most, giving tenants a heads up about where not to expect a bargain. Oh, okay. So where you can get a bargain and where you can't. So regions with the largest decline in rental prices. So you've got here houses and units. So nationally, the Barossa, Mid-North, Northern Territory Outback, okay. Sydney's Inner West, Queensland Outback, South Australia Outback, and there you go. Well, I'm not surprised the regions are, outback. Anything that has the word outback in it, I don't think you're going to be expecting a big return on your property. Or correct me if I'm wrong. Oh, maybe with the mining booms, when the mines were all getting built, but that's only temporary capex investment in these mines. Because I love it when they say, this construction project, or this government will create this many jobs. Yeah, for like a window this big, and then you need less people to maintain it. I'm not complaining. That, some of those mines helped me start my business, but I wouldn't be rushing out there to buy property. Anyway, units, the Western Australia, the Wheat Belt, Illawarra, Northern Territory Outback. They've got units in the Outback, the NT, Shepparton, and the Central West. I need a shot of coffee with this. Head to the Outback for cheap rent. It's funny, you talk to anyone overseas, they think Australia's just, crazy outback and we're all like Crocodile Dundee, but not quite. So the regions with the largest growth in rental prices. We can see here that largest in Latrobe. And then Darwin. Darwin's up there, 13%, in Perth. Now, I'd suspect Perth we're hearing about these rental increases and people are mentioning it in the comments, it's to do with the border closures. So you've got all the fly in, fly out workers staying there or bringing their family over there. Is that long term? Darwin at 13.64%. Why is that going up? Why is that so high? What projects are going on there? Launceston. Launceston? Really? Lonnie. Okay. Tasmanians, tell me why Lonnie is getting 38.46%. Now, to clarify that, I'll bring up my Google Earth to show people where Launceston is. For those of you that are not watching, like the 10% of people from the States or the 20% of you from all over the rest of the world, Launceston isn't exactly... Well, I'm a fan of Launceston. I've been there a few times. It's got good beers, beautiful old buildings. But, you know, it's a little bit in the middle of Tassie. So right here. Guys, why would you be seeing a 38.46% increase in unit prices in Launceston? You let me know, guys. Tasmanians, let me know. This was the headquarters of a crypto trading scam that I highlighted on my, or crypto wallet scam that I highlighted on this channel about a year ago. And we had Australian lawyers writing to me as a cease and desist letter. Now the scam's been kind of fallen apart, and the guy's gone to, I think he was arrested at one point in Singapore. And I remember going, why are you in Launceston, mate? It's not an international city. It turned out it was just a Lonnie crypto dude that had gotten an ASIC address and everything to legitimize this business, and it was just a house. So he was taken advantage of. But Lonnie's a great city. It's bloody cold though down there. And there's one thing I remember. Because I worked in a company that had a headquarters in Launceston. Actually did have a headquarters in Launceston. It was Heise Architecture when I was a student. And all the draftees that were working down there, I was annoyed at how cheap it was for them to get a house. They'd get a house under 200 grand down in Launceston, which we're talking about a decade ago now. And there you go. I was tempted. You know, Tasmania's a great place. But, I mean, big proportion of their state is working for the government or on welfare at the moment. It's pretty high right now. So, back to this. Latrobe in the Gippslands, southeast, and Bendigo. And then the Western Australia, the outback. South. So not the north, the south outback. 18%. So for those of you that live in these areas, let us know, why do you suspect these are happening? Rental markets in Melbourne and Sydney has suffered due to a lack of demand from international students and travellers, interstate migrants, and an exodus of pandemic-hit renters who could no longer afford their rents, according to Executive Manager of Economic Research at realestate.com.au, Cameron Kusher. Sydney and Melbourne have fared the worst in terms of slowdown in migration, with most arrivals in Australia choosing to live in one of these two cities, Mr. Kusher said. Now, I don't think that's changed for quite some time. I know my father picked Melbourne, and his cousin picked Adelaide. What's interesting is we've seen, I did a video yesterday, survey results that over 50% of Australians in this survey want a reduced level of immigration. So one could argue there's no longer the political will to have such a high level of migration to, well, support the property or demand for property. So that could wane. That lever that the politicians use to help prop up this huge sector of our economy, this huge part of our wealth, could dry up. And that's not even to say the lack of, well, desire for people to migrate over here, considering how difficult conditions are all around the world right now. We're facing a global recession. Maybe people can't afford it. So as a result, Melbourne and Sydney are seeing the most detrimental impact of shut borders, which has reduced rental demand and is pushing rents lower. The upside of this is that there's never been a better time to negotiate rent in some of the country's most sought-after renter enclaves. Now, the concern we need to have here is they don't try and implement rent controls to protect the investors. And don't think it can't happen, guys. Don't think it can't happen. Come on. we've got JobKeeper. Just wait for Mortgage Keeper and rent controls. You know, your rent. Sorry, it's too low. It needs to be at least 300. We have to protect these investors. You know, we have to protect them. I'm joking, but I'm kind of scared that it may become a reality. What else can 2020? Just think of the most insane things that 2020 can throw at us. You know. Oh, well, no, I can think even Labor will get in and implement rent controls for only certain demographics. Oh boy, that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't be that stupid for that, would they? Please tell me they wouldn't. So Victoria, having endured some of the strictest lockdown measures in the country, Victoria experienced widespread rent price drops between April and September. Melbourne inner saw rent prices drop of 3.08%. For houses, taking the weekly median to $630 in September compared to $650 in April. Now, this is another reason why people want to get into buying a house. Think about it. If you're paying $600 a week rent, you're going to get See, this is the thing. You've got all the burdens of owning a house, but then you don't have the potential for capital growth. So that's the problem that we're in. So even that we're facing a potential recession, then people may even cop a hit in the value of it. They may think this is the only chance they can to get in, particularly if you're paying that high rent for a house. It really is. It really has inflated. Housing just really has inflated to crazy amounts in the last 15 years. The city's market fared better than the more far-flung Mornington Peninsula, which had the biggest rent price drops for houses in the state at 5.95, reducing the weekly demand to 395 in September compared to 420 in April. So even that's more reasonable. But if I think about, 10 years, we were paying $405 for a two-bedroom house in Wellington, here in Brisbane. Oh, Wellington Road. Hang on. Sure. Kangaroo Point, where are we? Where's Brizzy? Brizzy is... Here we go. So this is the... Where were we? Okay, so we were studying here at QT. We were living over here. So here we go. So I think... Yeah, this one here. Right here on the corner of Wellington and Bain Street. So we had... What was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 5 lanes there. This is a timber factory. You had a lovely park here and the Pineapple Hotel right here. So we could walk to the city. But a decade ago we were paying $410 for a two-bedder. Nothing flash, an old Queenslander. There, so. And even that, we're thinking that's a bit high. Now we've become boring suburbanites. So, the Mornington Peninsula is a popular short-stay destination before the pandemic. Many properties were advertised on Airbnb or similar websites. We're probably seeing the impact of these properties that can no longer be short-term lets coming into the longer-term rental market and subsequently pushing rental rates lower. So, I mean, there's a consideration. If you could work remotely, like I could work anywhere. You know, for us as an architect, you need to go visit the site, you need to go meet people, but you can do a lot of your work remotely. A lot of it is done at the drawing board or the computer now. So if you have that opportunity, maybe you could move out to the peninsula. Maybe only commute in 1 day a week for your meetings, you know, cram it all in on that day. There could be opportunities. For units, Shepparton had the biggest rent price drop in Victoria at 8.26%. Latrobe Gippsland saw the biggest rent price increase for both houses and units in Victoria at 33% and 23% respectively. New South Wales. There have been some dramatic rent price falls in inner city areas of Sydney, popular with young people and migrants. So Sydney, the inner west, experienced the biggest drop in rents for houses, down 9.33%, reducing median rent from $750 per week in April to $680 in September. I mean, there you go. New South Wales Tenant Union CEO Leo Patterson-Ross said he's not surprised to see price falls in Sydney's inner west. I mean, just think about this. If you're renting out one of these things and you're used to getting $750 a week, and you're using that to cover your mortgage, and then all of a sudden that tap dries off. Hopefully people have enough of a buffer to sustain it long term. But, I mean, these are crazy amounts of money that you're paying a week in rent. It's pretty high. Compared to if we go to the ABS, and I'll bring that up right now. If we have a look at the, average weekly wage is $1,713. Full-time adults, ordinary time, seasonally adjusted. And I'm assuming that's gross. Is that before or after tax? Oh, it'd all be before, wouldn't it? Nevertheless, your rent's going to be a hefty chunk of it, so another reason why people are diving in. New South Wales Tenants Union Leo Patterson-Ross said he's not surprised to see prices fall in cities in the West. There have been significant drops in the inner West for a very simple reason. Rents have been really high for a long time. And COVID-19 was the straw that broke the camel's back, said Mr. Patterson-Ross. Renters didn't have the finances to pay rent, and not enough landlords were willing to negotiate with sitting tenants to keep them in place. As a result, thousands of people have had to move out of the safety of their home in the middle of a pandemic trying to find somewhere more affordable to live. Well, that's fine. That's the market. That's going to punish those landlords. Those stupid landlords that thought they could still get $700,000 from a 100-year-old specky. Sorry, $750 a week. They can definitely get more than $700,000 now. That's the sad reality of it. Cheap rental deals in hip suburbs like Marrickville, recently named one of Time Out's coolest neighborhoods in the world. I've got no idea what that is. I'm so old and uncool. Let me know if you know what that is, guys. Could be a dream come true for some tenants. For units, Illawarra is where tenants could find good deals, with median rent prices dropping 9.52% between April and September. This region is ideal for those seeking a coastal lifestyle. I mean, $800 per week for a 3-bed, 1-bath. Does it have a garage? The Southern Highlands and Shoalhaven saw the biggest rent price increases for houses at 19.05%. Coffs Harbour grafted one of the biggest rent price growths for the units at 11%. Coffs Harbour has seen one of the most rapid rebounds in demand across the country post-lockdown. So it suggests that demand is increasing competition for rental stock and pushing up prices. So could people be moving to Coffs? Maybe they can work remotely and Coffs is a nicer place to live. Could that be what we're seeing there, everyone? So let's look at Queensland. The only Queensland region to experience a drop in rent prices for houses was Queensland. Outback, with a drop of 7.69%, taking the weekly median down to 300 in September compared to 325 in April. Wow, I'm so out of date, guys. So, you know, an Outback place for $300, and I'm there used to inner city, or pretty close to inner city. Kangaroo Point's pretty good, for $410. For units, Gold Coast saw a small 2.89% decrease in rent prices, reducing the weekly median to $430 in September, down from $442 in April. Gold Coast units. I suspect we've seen a lot of holiday-let units on the Gold Coast return to the long-term rental market, and as a result has pushed rent prices lower. I mean, that's nuts. While parts of Melbourne and Sydney saw significant drops in rent prices, Brisbane inner city held up, showing an 8.18% increase in the weekly median for houses, which went from $550 to $595 in September. Well, there you go. Everyone, Florian's a decade out of date. Right there. Right there. Wow. And I prefer living further out, to be honest. I've got a little bit of a yard, no insane traffic. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old and boring. That's what it is. You know, middle-aged father, you know. Cairns saw the biggest increase in rent prices for houses of 12.2%. For units, Wide Bay showed an 8% increase in rent prices. So WA. Western Australian rental markets remained strong post-pandemic, which Mr. Kusher said was likely linked to closed state borders. With borders closed and people unable to leave WA, it's turning out to be quite positive for rental demand. The biggest rent price drop for both houses and units was seen in WA, Wheatbelt at 3.23 and 10.92 respectively. Rent prices for houses in Perth jumped 13%, increasing the weekly median rent from $610 to $290 in September. Wow. For units, Western Australian outback saw a rental price jump by 18%. The ACT. Despite strong demand in the ACT for rental prices, houses dropped 3.45%, reducing the weekly median from 580 to 560 in September. South Australia. Tenants have the opportunity to find a top deal in world-famous South Australia regions, with rent prices for houses in Ballarossa, York, Mid-North dropping 10%. The weekly median rent in September was $270 compared to $295. Well, I can't imagine you're going to get a view like that from a $270. Well, maybe you are. Let me know, South Australians. Let me know what it's like there. Maybe I should move down. The little big German community down there, lots of good Metwurst, should move down there. For units, South Australian outback had the biggest drop in rental prices of 6.67%. Adelaide West saw the biggest increase for houses at 2.44. You're just not competing with the rest of the country, guys. For units, Adelaide Central and Hills saw a 10% jump in prices from $350 to $385 per week in September. Tasmania. Tasmania's rental market held strong, showing zero price drops in any part of the state, but price growth appears to have plateaued, according to Mr. Kusher. While rents have still grown in Hobart and Tasmania, the rate of rental growth has slowed. The state has been experiencing extreme rental shortages, and although shut borders are limiting new demand for rents in the state, there is a deficiency in place which is pushing rents higher, he explained. After many years of strong rental growth and severely short supply shortages, the recession has hit the Hobart rental market. With borders largely shut, the fall away in migration to Hobart seems to be easing some of the rental pressures that have become apparent over recent years. Hobart saw a slight increase of 2.22% in rent prices for houses, taking the weekly median to $460 in September compared to $450 in April. Unit rent prices also increased by 3.31 to a weekly median of $390 in September and $377.5 in April. Launceston, Northeastern, saw the biggest increase in rent for both houses and units at 5.71 and a whopping 38.46 respectively. Yeah, but why? Why is Lonnie getting so expensive? Tasmanians, can you let me know why? Is it the Bogues? Is the Bogues just attracting the mainlanders down? The Northern Territory. The NT Outback region saw the biggest drop in rent prices for both houses and units at 10% and 9.52 respectively. Darwin's rental market, which has been challenged for some years, saw rent price growth between April and September. The Darwin rental market has been weak for a number of years. However, over the past 6 months, advertised rents have jumped. Darwin showed a rent price increase of 13.64% for houses, taking the weekly median to $500 in September compared to $440 in April. For units, prices jumped by 6.67 in Darwin. So there we have it, everyone. Such a mixed bag. Sydney and Melbourne hitting it the most, but Brisbane going up. Even Launceston and Hobart going up. Darwin going up. What is going on, everyone? What's going on? So I can understand. I mean, some of these prices that people are paying for rents, $600, $700 for a place. I guess, it's the price you have to pay to be in the good inner west suburbs of Sydney. What do you think, everyone? No wonder people want to jump into housing. This is also a demand. Just the negative psychological consequences of buying and paying rent. And I can understand it 100%. But you've got to also weigh it against the costs of maintaining a property and all of the other costs that are associated with it. But sometimes you think, stuff it, I just want the security and stability of having my own place. What do you think, everyone? What do you think? Do you think it's going to be a renter's market, or is this just some sectors which are having a bounce? Is Brisbane just catching up to Sydney and Melbourne? Oh, I hope not. I don't want my kids to have to pay a fortune for a place. I'll have them all stuck here forever. Anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Do you think this is the fraction of the rental prices that people are able to nab these places at, or maybe it's a fractional discount? As always, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links on Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.